Hey, hi Sharan. How are you?
Hello. Hello, Sharvari. I am fine and I'm excited to continue our discussion from our introduction. And I think we've already introduced ourselves in quite some detail in the introduction video. So I would encourage all of the people who are watching us to first watch the introduction video before you continue with this series. And here we're going to talk a little about or we're going to talk further in further detail about the Bhagavad Gita. So I give the floor to you.
That's right. So I'll just introduce myself very quickly by name so that I don't forget it later on. So I am Sharvari and this is Sharan. And today we are going to talk about the Bhagavad Gita in a little bit more detail. So coming to the follow-up of the first video. So Sharan, you mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, but it was quite short, I believe. So maybe our audience and our viewers would love to know more about the historical context of how the Bhagavad Gita actually came to be. So can you enlighten
Right.
a bit on that?
Sure. So last, as I mentioned, Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Arjun and Krishna. However, I feel that to aid understanding and to properly understand the Bhagavad Gita, it is also important to know in some detail who exactly Arjun was and who exactly Krishna was, so that you understand what exactly is the real meaning of the dialogue between these two characters. So, Mahabharat essentially is the story of a conflict between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Now, these were the two factions of one dynasty known as the Kuru dynasty. So, in this Kuru dynasty, there were two kings whose names were Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Dhritarashtra married Gandhari, who gave birth to 100 Kauravas. Similarly, King Pandu had two wives, Kunti and Madri, who gave birth to five Pandavas. One of whom was Arjun. The other were his brothers Yudhishthir, Bhim, Nakul, and Sahadev. So, the leader of the Kauravas was named Duryodhan, and his father, as I mentioned, was Dhritarashtra, and he was the blind king. So he relied on his one of his employees. You can say, does the king have employees? Whatever, manservants to relay the information to him. And his name was Sanjay. And it is said that Sanjay had what Hindus call Divya Drushti, that is, he could see events which were not happening. So the Mahabharata and the entire Bhagavad Gita has actually been narrated by Sanjay to Dhritarashtra because Sanjay witnessed Bhagwan Shri Krishna and Arjun talking to each other. So this is the true in if you are a data scientist, then you can say this is the provenance of the data. So this is how the Bhagavad Gita, has come down to us. So with that in mind, what exactly was so noble about Arjun? So what was noble about Arjun is that he was considered one of the best warriors in the Pandava clan. He was definitely the best archer there, and he was a noble and valiant prince, and he was of noble character. And of course, Bhagwan Shri Krishna, his character was so noble, he's considered an embodiment or an avatar of Lord Vishnu himself. So it is said about Lord Vishnu that Swalilaya Jagatratam Avirbhutama Jamvivo, which is Sanskrit for it was the Leela. Leela is, you can say, the cosmic munificence of Lord Vishnu, which made him manifest or take multiple forms upon the earth in human terms. A parallel can be found in Christianity. So, where Jesus is considered the Son of God, and the rationale behind Jesus being born is that God sent his only Son to the earth in order to save humanity from sin. And similarly, whenever Lord Vishnu encounters that there is great adharma or injustice and people are being unethical, then he takes an avatar and he takes human form upon this earth. He fights what is adharm. He establishes what is dharma. He establishes the right way. And then he comes to the natural end of his life cycle. So Bhagwan Vishnu in total has already had nine such avatars. It is said that the 10th avatar of Lord Vishnu is still to come, which is the Kalki avatar.
Hmm.
So one of these avatars was Bhagwan Shri Krishna. And so this is in brief, who uh, who the Pandavas were, who the Kauravas were, who Arjun was, and who Bhagwan Shri Krishna is.
Okay, right.
So, and now we need to understand exactly where they were assembled. So the Pandavas and Kauravas, I'll explain this in brief. right? So they were fighting for power over a seat. Now the Pandavas were they were agreeable to the concept of a compromise. So ideally, the kingdom should have been split down the middle, right? 50% to the Pandavas, 50% to the Kauravas.
Yeah.
However, the Pandavas were so amenable to the idea of a compromise that they just asked for 5 villages and they agreed to set up their own capital in Indraprastha far away. And they said, we do not want a lot, we just want 5 villages. However, they did not agree even to that. The Kauravas were insistent that they would not get any land. So Duryodhan famously told the Pandavas that you would not even get the land which can fit on the head of a pin. So essentially, you get nothing.
Right.
Now, everyone had to pick a side in this war because they called it a dharma yudh. A dharma yudh is essentially a war for what is right and what is wrong. So everyone had to pick a side between what is right and what is wrong. And it was Bhagavan Shri Krishna and who his massive Yadav army would fight for. And of course, everyone wanted Bhagavan Shri Krishna to be on their side. Now, Dhritarashtra and Arjun went, sorry, I'm so sorry. Duryodhana and Dhritara, again, I apologize. Both Arjun as well as Duryodhan wanted Sri Krishna to be on their side. Now Duryodhan was friends with Arjun. He was also Arjun was also his disciple, but they were also good friends. Arjun was so convinced that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is actually an avatar of Vishnu, that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is actually divine, that Arjun told Shri Krishna, it is okay if your entire Yadav army fights on the other side. I just want you to fight on my side. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna, even though he was a king, right, he was a king of Dwarka and had a massive army, he was still so convinced that the Pandavas were on the right track. And he was so much on Arjun's side and so much in his favor that he agreed to become a charioteer for Arjun. So Arjun's chariot was actually being driven. He was called Parth. There is also why Krishna, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, is known as Parthasarthi because he was the charioteer for Arjun. And so the entire Bhagavad Gita comes about because there are now that the it has been decided that there has to be a battle, there will be a battle to decide who should get what. And this battle took place in a place known as Kurukshetra, which still exists in modern day Haryana.
Okay. Right.
And, yeah, and so this, um, as I later described, this Kurukshetra has been described as a Dharma Kshetra and for the reasons I'll tell later. So basically, the Bhagavad Gita comes about because these two massive armies are allied on opposing sides of a battlefield, and now the time for battle is nigh. So Arjun decides to he instructs Shri Krishna, who's his charioteer, to bring his chariot forward so he can inspect the army of the opposing side. And when he comes to the opposing side, who does Arjun see? Arjun sees all of his cousins, the Kauravas. Maybe he had disagreements with them, but he did not want to kill them. He sees a character named Karna, who actually was also a son of Kunti and was a brother to Arjun, but that will be revealed later in the Mahabharata. He also sees all of his teachers. So essentially, he sees what he calls bhrata or brother or kinsman. So, and Arjun realized that he would have to fight against his kinsmen and maybe even kill them in battle. And this really shook Arjun. He had a great crisis of conscience and he dropped his weapons, which for a Kshatriya is a very big deal because a Kshatriya is supposed to pick up weapons and fight for dharma, and he could not fight, he could not continue anymore. And this would have been disastrous for the Pandav army because Arjun was a battlefield commander. He was a warrior beyond excellence.
Right.
So Bhagavan Shri Krishna took it upon himself to instruct Arjun on what is dharma, what is adharma. And it is said that this discourse has come down to us in the form of Bhagavad Gita. And it is also said that as he was doing this, Bhagavan Shri Krishna showed Arjun his divine or cosmic form. And one of the phrases that Bhagavan Shri Krishna has revealed as he revealed his cosmic form to Arjun was later quoted by Robert Oppenheimer when he first witnessed the atom bomb exploding. So I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. This is the famous quote from the Bhagavad Gita, and this is the occasion where it comes from, where Bhagavan Shri Krishna just reveals his divine form to Arjuna. So I will. like to, yeah, so that is, I would like to just briefly talk about the Adhyaya 1 and the first shlok of the Gita. So it starts with Dharma Kshetre Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yutsava, Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva, Kim Kurvat Sanjaya. That is, Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? So this is, as I mentioned in detail, who Sanjay was, who Dhritarashtra was, and who the sons of Pandu are the Panda, the sons of Dhritarashtra are, of course, the Kauravas.
Yeah.
And why is the Kurukshetra also called the Dharma Kshetra? So, Kshetra in Sanskrit is a place, a geographically defined location. On the other hand, dharma is, it is often mistranslated as religion, but it's actually the right way, the right thing to do, or the right way to live. That is dharma. So it is known as Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetra, because Kurukshetra was about to become the place where what is right and what is wrong would be decided, where dharma, the right way, would be established. And with this, I would like to conclude.
That's great. I mean, I think a lot of people have heard about the Gita, but people don't know the historical context behind it, because I myself learned a lot of new things today. So I'm sure our audience might have felt the same. So thank you so much, Sharang. This was very, very insightful as usual. And let's, of course, continue with the next video in the series. And we are looking forward to more, insightful discussions on this topic. So yeah, everyone, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we will be continuing this series as I've mentioned. And thank you once again, Shara.
Thank you so much for your time, Sharvari. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.